Welcome to Ageless Vitality, where we share the secrets to thrive in midlife and beyond. I'm Dr. Mia.
And I'm Joseph.
And we're excited to start this podcast for today, where we will be focusing on
rekindling your intimacy.
All right, in midlife and beyond, because we want to thrive. So how do we come up with this topic, Joseph? What do you want to hit on? What do the people want to talk about today?
All right, so we're talking about rekindling your intimacy. So I would say what that is when you got into a point of your life when things wasn't as or isn't as spicy as it used to be. Mm-hmm. You know, especially in long-term relationships. Mm-hmm. So I would think that rekindling it is trying to get that with that old
Spice
thing back. Get that old thing back.
Like when we first met the first 2 years.
Right. Still trying to get a groove back too, you know.
Right.
So that's what I would think. You know, when you've been in a relationship for a while, things change, and we talked about it last episode how you grow,
right,
and things do change,
right.
And sometimes molecularly, things change in your body, and it's not that you're not attractive to the person. It's just that
things are changing.
Your hormones has changed, and
the way you look changes.
The natural thing, right? The natural things in your body are going away, and those hormones that keep you interested, or at least keep you interested in the sexual side of your relationship, those things are dwindling. And it's not the fact that you don't like the person or love the person, it's the fact that you don't have the drive.
Right.
You know, so I think that's what, when we're saying rekindling, is like you've lost your drive. It's not you lost your love for the person, but you lost your drive to, you know, be with that person in an intimate setting. I guess, is that fair to say? That's
fair to say, but I would say it also has a lot to do with midlife and all the different things that are going on in midlife. And the fact that with intimacy, you have to really take some time and energy and like really invest in your relationship. And so many of us get so busy during this time because we're working, we're running businesses,
right.
We have kids, we got family, we got parents we're taking care of.
And you know what's taking effect now?
What?
And we kind of have forgotten about it, even though it just happened. COVID.
Yeah.
COVID knocked out a lot of intimacy for people. Just the fact that we were around each other every day, all day.
And we hugged and we touched more. And we talked to people more.
I mean, we did, but a lot of people realized, I don't like this person.
But I'm just saying in general in the world.
Right,
when COVID hit, like since COVID, like nobody really shakes hands anymore.
Right,
you barely hug people when you see them. So just in general, everybody just does things a lot differently.
And so people grew apart during the COVID time, you know. And I think that was also a time where people realized where maybe, you know, something is going on with us or each other, and it wasn't as intimate. So that's why I'm thinking, coming out of COVID, a lot of people, there was a lot of divorce, a lot of breakups, a lot of separation. I think coming out of COVID, intimacy was not something people were really trying to do. Some people were trying to run away from each other. You know, luckily we've always been super close, and you know, we like being in the confines of our home and stuff like that, even though we go, and that was hard for us, but we didn't mind being with each other either, you know. So, and then we had a business we had to think about, you know. It wasn't like we were going to, you know, and had to go to somebody else's business and work from home. We had a business that we had to make sure survive COVID.
Right.
You know, so we worked together, and, you know, that's intimate for us, you know, on the intellectual side, that's intimate for us. So, but rekindling that intimacy, you know, I think you have to dig deep to see what happened. Was it something that happened in your relationship, or was it something happening with you personally?
And I think you have to focus on not just the physical intimacy, because a lot of times when we talk about intimacy, we're talking about physical, but the importance of the emotional part of intimacy. And I think that's where COVID had a huge impact, because you had to kind of sit with your emotions. You weren't ripping and running. You know, you got to see your partner for who they were. Like, you remember our life before COVID and our life after COVID. Before COVID, we were constantly running marlets everywhere. We were going to meetings. We weren't using Zoom and virtual, so we didn't have as much time. So now all of a sudden, you've been doing all this stuff and not really talking or having the time to spend with each other to improve your emotional intimacy. So you're under all this stress with COVID, and now all of a sudden you got to figure out how to live together and work together under these new circumstances. So I think if we all focus on that emotional component of intimacy, that is going to help with the physical, and that will help to rekindle intimacy, because we're not always talking about sex when we're talking about intimacy.
Right.
We're talking about the emotional intimacy, the spiritual intimacy. You already said
recreational intimacy,
intellectual.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that making sure that we focus on those other components of intimacy will help us to improve and rekindle that physical intimacy that we all want to continue and enjoy throughout our midlife and
you know, as individuals, men, I'm not gonna say versus women, but men on one side, women on the other side, we like to hang out with our guys, with our female friends, but at the same time, to rekindle that intimacy, you have to hang out together. You know,
and sometimes by yourselves too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
like not all the time
with
with other
and
people,
stuff like that, right? You know, I'm not for going to the movies just because I don't want to be in the building with all those people. I still have a COVID. I don't know what to say, but I just don't want to be in that.
The COVID effect makes you not
I don't want to be in that
movies.
building with people watching the movie unless it's a Monday at noon. Then I'm in there by myself. So I still have a problem going to the movies, but we go out to eat all the time, and we do comedy shows. We go to some comedy shows and stuff like that, and you know, and just do a lot of stuff with each other. We watch movies together, you know, and hang out with our family and stuff. So, you know, just stuff like that, you know, to kind of be with each other and, you know, we learn together. We go to church together. So, you know, stuff like that keeps that intimacy going, so you don't have to rekindle it.
Yeah.
You know, and then we this is what we do for a living too, though.
Right.
You know, we understand when there are changes in your body and stuff like that we need to go see somebody about that. You know, if you got any pain or anything like that, you know. I've been dealing with a shoulder issue, but I'm not trying to let that get in the way of my intimacy.
Right.
You know, so I'm going to the doctor.
Right.
You know,
so going back to even bringing that total wellness component in, and making sure you're doing all the things, the prevention, the screening, exercising, eating healthy, because if you're not healthy, you definitely don't want to engage in physical intimacy.
Absolutely.
And it's harder.
Right.
Because, you know, if you have diabetes and high blood pressure, things in your genital area aren't going to function.
Not going to function, no.
And so that's going to definitely dampen the physical intimacy, which can ultimately decrease the oneness and cause a lot of separation in a relationship.
Right. And also cause you some type of mental anxiety. You know, as a male, if that's not working properly, then you can have mental anxiety. You know, I mean, we all want to get erections, you know,
and maintain them.
And maintain erections, right?
And please our partners, just like women want to make sure that they have, you know, their vaginal tissue is healthy and lubricated and orgasmic. So it's just certain things that we all have to do in order to continue that intimacy in midlife and beyond.
Right.
Because we're trying to go to 80, 90, you know, like just wake up dead the morning of after a great orgasm at 90 years old is like my dream way to go. But in order to do that, you have to work really hard in a relationship as well as on yourself personally, and be self-aware and do those things so that you can maintain your health and you can really enjoy intimacy forever.
So, yeah, again, we're talking about rekindling intimacy in your midlife.
And beyond.
And, you know, it's just really important, I think, just really important to pay attention to what's happening to you personally, you know, because if I don't know what's going on with me, it's going to be hard to deal with trying to deal with you too, you know. So I think it's really important that as a man, for me, that I see, when I see changes, I address the changes.
Right.
You know, if I'm picking up weight, I, you know, do something about it. And if my weight is messing with my intimacy, because it can, you know, then I probably need to do something about that. Or, you know, if I'm having headaches or soreness or things like that, that's not natural. Just make sure that I'm going to the doctor.
Right. And then, so basically you're saying self-awareness. Self-awareness, paying attention to your body, listening to your body, and then knowing in midlife things are going to change. Like you said, hormones are going to change. When hormones change for women, that means that your testosterone starts to decline. That can be in your 30s or 40s.
Right.
And then when that happens, you start waking up in the middle of the night, having night sweats, having a low sex drive, working way harder to have an orgasm if you have an orgasm. The fatigue and the joint pain, the belly fat, the mood changes, and the mind fog. And I want to reiterate all these things because women and men used to just live with that and just, prop it off to that's a part of life, that's a part of aging, this is how it goes.
And it is, though.
It is a part of life and aging, but we can fix it.
Technology is different.
That's right. It's very different.
So it is a part of aging. It's just that it was nothing for that then.
Right. But now we have things like our hormone balance and testosterone pellets and, all those things. And the reason I want to make sure that we do this podcast with Ageless Vitality, why it's so important to me is because so many women and men don't know that there are options out there so that they can maintain healthy intimacy, so that they can feel great as they age and mature. And to know that they can do things to improve, their heart health, their breast health, their prostate health. Decrease the risk of dementia, decrease the risk of bone loss. Those are the things that plant-based bioidentical hormone therapy do, and those are the things that are going to help you live well, age well, and experience everlasting intimacy. But so many people don't even know that that's an option.
Right.
Because many women go to their gynecologist, and when they say, I feel like my hormones are off, they check their labs, and they say, no, your hormones are all in the normal range. Well, it doesn't matter if your hormones are in the normal range if you having all of those symptoms. So if my testosterone comes back at 80, and which they consider the normal range, not necessarily when I replace it, but if I'm still having night sweats and not sleeping and having fatigue and joint pain and I don't want to have sex, I still need testosterone. So, making sure you can find a provider who will listen to your concerns, making sure you can find that provider who can actually help get your lab work, balance your hormones, because both of us get our hormones balanced. And I know that you noticed a big difference since you've gotten your hormones balanced. So as a man, we talk about female hormones all the time. Everybody knows we go through menopause. Everybody knows we lose our estrogen, and that's what everybody focuses on. I focus on the estrogen and the testosterone. But for men, nobody ever really talks about andropause, or the fact that men have a decrease in their hormones and some of the symptoms that they experience. So can you hit on that for the men out there listening? Because this is for men and women.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of experienced some different symptoms, but we all have the same symptoms as women. It's just
as women.
Yeah, we have the same symptoms.
Oh, you saying women and men can have the same symptoms?
Same exact symptoms.
Yeah, the weight gain, the belly fat.
Yeah, all of that. The fatigue. All of that. Low libido. I mean, we have the same symptoms. But again, if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
That's the whole thing. The same symptoms. We're gaining weight out of nowhere, and it has a lot to do with what we eat and our health too. But if you're doing all of that, let's say you're working out and you're still gaining weight and you're still tired,
and you just cannot sleep, even though you're trying to go to sleep,
and you're restless in the middle of the day, then you're having a hormone situation.
Right, you're not balanced.
Right,
so
you're
you
not
need to
balanced. And I was going to say this because you brought this up. Normal is relative to the person.
Right. What's normal for me is totally different from what's normal
to
another woman my same age, my same weight and height.
It's relative to the person. So when it comes to my hormones, I might be balanced at 900.
Right.
But the next man may be balanced at 11.
Right.
So it's all about how you feel. That's why we manage people. We don't just give hormones. We manage hormones.
We don't manage labs. We manage symptoms.
Yeah, we manage symptoms.
What's going on with that person.
And that's what's really important. Just had a conversation yesterday with a gentleman who, been married 7-8 years, and his spouse is uninterested. And, he was like, she's too young to be, even like this. And I'm like, well, that's not true, because we're seeing people in their 20s who need their hormones balanced, you know, and this has everything to do with what we eat, people,
right?
You know, like
and our lifestyle and
our lifestyles, and
right.
you know, I smoke cigars, but I don't smoke cigars every day because I know that's bad for me and what it does to my hormones too, you know.
And drinking a lot of alcohol, what it does to your sexual function. A lot of people think having a couple of drinks helps with sexual function.
It depends on what you're drinking, though, because drinks, these new liquors that's coming out have additives and preservatives in them. You know, that's like if you're drinking tequilas, you got to watch the tequilas you drink. You know, because for the simple fact is they're adding vanilla to that tequila. They're adding these additives to these tequilas. Same thing with bourbons. I know if I'm drinking bourbon all day, I'm probably not thinking about having sex that night.
Right. That's right. Right. So just remembering that lifestyle things.
Because I know something ain't going to work because I'm drinking this bourbon.
Right, because bourbon because when you drink alcohol, for men it can cause more erectile dysfunction. And for women it causes more vaginal dryness. So you think, oh, I'm having me a glass of wine so we can get it. No, you're messing things up.
But it also can cause inflammation.
Yes,
because of, inflammation. I know if I drink certain stuff, my knees swell up, you know. That's why I can't drink Hennessy, right? Well, I can't drink Hennessy because it's Hennessy, but my knees will swell up. I drink some coke, you know. So,
but again, just kind of circling back around, the whole thing is that being self-aware, understanding that there are options. Like you don't have to live in misery. You don't have to go through this midlife point and beyond.
I guess they call it. You can call it a crisis.
Yeah, a lot of people call it a crisis because your body's changing so much, and your mentals maybe out because it can cause more anxiety, depression, irritability.
Absolutely.
More mind fog where you can't focus, the fatigue, the joint pain. So it's not just sex; it's also quality of life and what you can give to your family and give to the world.
So, So the one thing we talked about yesterday too is. And we talked about going to the doctor and they telling you things are fine, but that's not what they specialize in either. And most people you need to know, like, if your doc is not a hormone studying doc, then what's normal to them and how things are treated is not probably what you need,
right?
Because you're still miserable and they say, oh, your hormones are good, you're just aging.
Or just finding good doctors in general that care about you, that listen to you, that treat you individually, give you your options, allow you to make your own decisions, educate you on your proper screenings. I mean, I'm getting so many patients that are seeing doctors regularly and their doctors are not even making sure that they get their cardiac workup at a certain age. They're not making sure that they get their colonoscopies, so
this is insane.
So finding the right doctor that cares about you, that's going to take good care of you, and then in this midlife time, I think everybody should have a hormone specialist because your hormones are going to change. Now, I won't say that 100% of the men and women in the world who go through the transition of menopause and andropause have to have hormones in order to feel good, but I will say there's a good number, so it's always a good idea to get your hormones checked. You know what I mean? See that hormone specialist, and then that way it's easier to stay balanced.
These are not things. If you watch TV, and we don't watch a lot of TV, but I watch enough to know that this is not something that's being talked about on TV.
It's not. No.
Matter of fact, they're giving you. If you look at any station, Big Farm is giving you everything to cure the symptoms.
Yeah, a bunch of different drugs.
But they're not telling you go get your hormones checked.
Right, because when you start not sleeping at night, they give you Ambien. Then you start gaining weight, so they put you on Antipics. Then you end up with diabetes because you gain too much weight. So now you're on metformin. Now your blood pressure up because you gain weight too because your testosterone low. So you're not sleeping. Right. You know what I mean? So you anxious. You can't focus. You're not performing at work, and then you got an attitude with everybody.
Right, and then you take all them drugs, you can't get a hard erection.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get all the side effects from the drugs, when in actuality, half the people, if you balance your hormones, you could cut half of those drugs.
And now you're still not having no sex.
Right. And you're irritable, and you got side effects from the drugs, your hair falling out, all sorts of things.
Yeah, so you got to be careful. I am never a fan of prescription drugs. That's just me, though.
I mean, I'm a fan of good prescription drugs.
Yeah, but I'm never a fan of stuff just to... Don't give me something to fix something. That's not the problem.
Right.
Don't fix my symptoms. Right. Fix my problem.
Right.
Right. And so I'm and that's why I like about how we practice medicine over here. We're about fixing the problems.
Right.
And then getting to the symptoms by We fix the problem. Now
and
you
now we get rid of the symptoms.
We manage your symptoms. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're still having this. All right, we need to change something. We need to tweak something. Mm-hmm. You know, so
kind of to summarize, in order to maintain and rekindle your intimacy, it's a few things that you have to do.
Well, first of all, you have to explore all the sources of intimacy. Mm-hmm. You know, recreational, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, and sexual.
Yeah, physical.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Physical and physical don't have to be sexual, but physical.
Physical. Well, you know, for you, it doesn't have to be sexual.
It does.
Yeah, for me, it's sexual, baby. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So, but you know, but
making
still,
sure you're putting the energy and time into
hanging
the
out
entire
together,
component.
right? You know, hanging out together. Yeah. You know, even for us, you know, going to Molly's soccer games is fun for us to be together at the soccer game. You know, supporting our daughter, and you know, doing things, going to plays and stuff like that.
Going to church together, praying together, having the hard conversations.
Yeah,
you know, improving your communication.
Absolutely.
Taking time, making sure you have your dates with your partner.
Yep. Because
everybody's so busy. If you're not, you know, you're going from day to day and you look up and you hadn't even been out to dinner in a month. Where it was just you and your partner going out on a date.
Right.
So putting the date time in, getting your pillow talk.
Let's say this though. It is good that you don't go to dinner for a whole month. Eat at home.
Well, I'm just saying you don't go on a date.
Yeah, go to date. Go to date.
Part of my date is gonna be some good food.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna get some high quality good food.
We're gonna get some real good food.
Some good food.
Yeah. So,
but just spending that time, you know, putting that time in because it's hard.
Even going to the grocery store together.
Yeah, and cooking together, preparing the food
together. To get the healthy food.
Right.
For us
but not just thinking that you're going to rekindle intimacy physically without doing all those other things.
You have to do all those other things. And communicate in the process.
That's right.
You know,
effectively.
Effective communication. You know, level 4, level 5 communication.
Mm-hmm. And then knowing that you can continue to have great intimacy because there are great procedures out there to allow men and women to have great intimacy until they die. So we have like P shots and O shots and vaginal rejuvenation and hydrogel. All of these things are used to help men with their, well, I'd say what they do for women. They help women with sensitivity. They help women with laxity, so it means it tightens. It causes more lubrication, increased orgasms, more intense orgasms, vaginally and clitorally. Very important. 2 different orgasms. And when you can have both, that's going to just improve your enjoyment of your physical intimacy with your partner. And then also understanding, too, that intimacy does change, and you may have to be creative in how you have intimacy as you continue to age and mature. So you can have these procedures, you can do your wellness, you can balance your hormones, but over time you're not going to be swinging from the chandeliers like you were in your 20s, and you may not have repeat intercourse at 60 3 or 4 times in the same night. But there are ways that we can be creative, we can explore together, you know, become more self-aware. And a lot for women, you know, we never talked about these things. So for me, I just been on kind of like this little exploring path to figure out what sexuality means to me and what I want. So it's okay to read books. It's okay to, you know, learn your body and learn other ways for you to enjoy physical intimacy, because it's just not something most people have ever focused on.
What type of books, Doc?
All kinds of books. I like all kinds of books. I like romance books for the most part.
Is that what those are?
Those are romance.
Oh, okay.
Books, yes.
Yeah, I heard one come on your car the other day. It didn't sound too romantic.
It was very romantic.
It wasn't that romantic.
They have a little erotic, romantic books.
Somebody talking out of Hustler magazine. That's what it sounded like. Wasn't that romantic now? Come on now.
But I will say, you know, that I have been enjoying my exploring. So it may be sometimes fiction books that are romance, but even just like educational stuff about my body and learning about his body and, you know, what pleases a man. Like, you can actually explore those things so you can improve your intimacy and rekindle it and keep it very exciting. Okay. I like excitement.
We're going to have to listen to one of those books on the podcast one day. See how that go. See what Dr. Mia listening to, boy. So
they always have a storyline.
Yeah, we got in the car the other day with our daughter, and that book came on. Oh, Jesus! Stop! Stop! I was like, oh, you and these slutty books, boy. But yeah, I mean, you know, and the same thing for men, the P-shot, a P-wave, that all helps with sensitivity, thickness, which is girth, erections, stiff erections, and lasting erection.
That's right.
And even to just get an erection, because not everybody's getting an erection.
Right.
So we deal with people with a lot of different symptoms, and sometimes they have that intimacy part together when it comes to being with the person and wanting to do it with the person. It's just they can't get.
They don't have great function.
They don't have a great function. Can't get an
erection. And we can create great function.
Right. And it takes time, though. Every male that I deal with, I tell them this is not an overnight success type thing. Mentally, you need to make sure that you're there as well, because the anxiety of not being able to perform
can make it worse.
Yeah, it can make it much worse.
It can make it much worse.
Yeah, it can make it much worse. And if what can even make it much worse than that is watching a lot of porn too. Can make it much worse, because now your brain's playing tricks on you that you got to watch this porn in order to get an erection, and you still might not be getting a good erection if you do that. So you got to be really careful, that you're not playing tricks with yourself. And then mentally, you got to really be like, this is gonna work, and I'm gonna work at it.
And then you just got to put the energy into it, energy into your health and your wellness and the lifestyle you live.
Sometimes that's the root issue is your health.
Yeah, and how you living.
Yeah, and how you living, and what you're eating, and your blood pressure, and if you're taking care of yourself. So
thank y'all for tuning in to this Ageless Vitality episode, where we teach you the secrets of living your best life in the midlife and beyond. Do you have any final words for the people, Joseph? And y'all can always find us at mibellawellness.com and follow me on Instagram at Dr. Mia Cowan, MD.
Any final words? No, I don't have any today. No. My final word would be, make sure you're communicating clearly with your partner about how you want intimacy to be in your life.
I like that. That's a great trait.
And which are the two hardest things to do is communicate about intimacy, right? But make sure you clearly, we talk about that communication, so make sure you clearly communicate that.
I love it. Well, thank y'all for joining. We'll see you at the next episode. It's Dr. Mia.
And Joseph.